posted this video, like a rambling style video about just things that I enjoy. So I decided I would do that since there's some things that I want to show you and talk about. And, yeah. So the first thing is, a while back I did a video of me painting a miniature of Godric from Elden Ring. It was like a 1/16th scale, I want to say, and it was really small. I've been painting miniatures of that size for quite a long time, but more recently I've gotten into painting bigger ones, like 1/8 and 1/6 scale. So I got a couple of them I want to show you, and then to sort of talk about the IPs related to those, and then talk about some movie stuff. I have some stuff from my Blu-ray collection to show, and yeah, we'll just see how it goes. So the first one I want to show off is the most recent one that I've done, but it's also sort of a lot simpler than some of the other ones. But I'm really happy with how the face turned out because I've been practicing painting the faces in more detail and more realism. So I was pretty happy with this. Let me grab it. So it's a bit bigger because it's 1/8 scale. But this is Gandalf the Grey from Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. It's Ian McKellen. So, yeah, it's a little bit simpler because it's a lot of gray. But the face, let's take his little hat off. His face I was really happy with. Let's see if we can get this going at all. Let's see. I can't tell if it's focusing or not. There you go. I was really happy. I don't know. I can't see how much you can see on here, but I did an underlayer of like this darker red color or pinkish color, and then used a technique called glazing and just went over it a whole bunch. And yeah, I was really happy with it. I also was really happy with the hands. Let's see if there's a fingernail that I did just perfectly. This is so nerdy. Okay, let's see if we can get that fingernail in there. I can't see if it's in focus or not. I don't know if you can see any of that or not. Alright, but yeah, I was really happy. I use a lot of techniques like dry brushing, and yeah, but I was extremely happy with this. This was a gift from my brothers, Max and Carson, for my birthday, and it took me a while to paint it, and I just finished it recently, so really happy with it. I haven't put a finisher on it or a varnish or anything, mainly because a lot of the time I put a varnish on it, it really changes the look of it, and I really like the raw paint style, but the varnish definitely does help the paint stay on. So Lord of the Rings is one of my just all-time favorite movies and series. I haven't read the books, I know, shame on me, but I just haven't had the time, and since I love the movie so much, I don't really feel, I feel like I'd rather read other fantasy books. Like I'm working through the Mistborn series, and then I have on my shelf ready to go the what is it? The other Brandon Sanderson one, the Stormlight Archives, that's what it is. Stormlight Archives, ready to go. And so, reading I've read The Hobbit, I haven't read The Lord of the Rings, so, yeah. And then I have another, I think it's a 1/8 scale of Legolas and Gimli that is not primed yet, but I just got it in the mail, and I'm going to paint that. One thing that I didn't notice, and it maybe discredits me as a fan, but I did not realize that Gandalf's sheath and belt was blue. I just never noticed. I don't know why. when I was looking at pictures for references, I was like, oh, it's blue. But yeah, I was happy with this. I don't think it's my favorite thing that I've painted. I've got some other ones that are a little bit more complicated that I was really happy with how they turned out. So yeah, this is Gandalf. I also, since this is a rambling video, I'm just sort of gonna give in to every thought that pops into my head to make this as long and maybe as interesting as possible. But one thing is about this is I also really like the Hobbit. I know, controversial, but I watched The Hobbit before reading the book, and obviously there's a lot of differences between the book and the movie, but the movie is just so, I don't know, I think it's great. I love it. I think the Battle of Five Armies Extended Edition is just epic. The fight scenes, like Lord of the Rings, is obviously way superior to the Hobbit movies, but the fighting in the Hobbit is so different. It's so like more adventurous and silly at times, which I get a lot of people didn't like, but I felt like it fit the style of the Hobbit a lot better than the grittier, sort of close-up, shaky cam fight style of Lord of the Rings. But yeah, sue me. I saw them all in theaters, and I had a job at the time, and I saw it in theaters. I never looked at reviews back then. I would have been 12 when the first one came out. Obviously I didn't have a job then, but when Desolation of Smaug came out, I did have a job. And I didn't know what the reviewer said, but I went to work and was talking about, oh yeah, I loved it, I thought it was great, and everybody was like, oh, how could you say that? But yeah, as the title implies, this is a rambling video, and there was a little bit of a ramble, so yeah, I'm proud of this. I tried to do different grays. I don't think they're showing up super well on the camera, but I made his cloak and his like lower cloak skirt thing a lighter gray, and made the under darker, so there's sort of separation. I don't know how much of that you can see, but yeah. Also, you can see some super glue, which, hang on. Just gonna set this here. Side note, side rant about super glue. Super glue sucks. I hate using super glue. It never works the way that I want it to. I've tried different brands. I've tried different amounts. I think I've looked up stuff and they say it has something to do with resin, because all the models that I've gotten are 3D printed, and every time I go to glue it together, it is the worst part of the experience with working with them. So if anybody has any tips or something better than super glue to put these models together, please tell me, because it just sucks all the fun out of the ending of the painting. Also, you can hear birds tweeting. Okay, so that's my Gandalf one. Another one that I've done recently. Let me grab it. This is gonna be a whole side rant. Not rant, but just ramble. So this is Leon Kennedy from specifically Resident Evil 4, which just recently I've had the pleasure of playing the older Resident Evil games, but the remastered versions. I never really played the only Resident Evil game that I had played before this year, I think it was this year that I played them all, was Resident Evil 7, because that was the one that everybody talked about. So I played that one. I enjoyed it, but Resident Evil 2 Remastered was great. I thought it was excellent. The third one sort of lost me a little bit. I didn't really like the ending of it. I felt like there were some pacing issues, which maybe I should play the original, because some people said that the pacing was better in the original than the remastered. But then I played Resident Evil 4, and I was blown away by that game. That game is not talked about enough. stuff, and the remaster was stupendous. I don't even know. Every time I was like my biggest problem with the second and third one was just like stuff was very similar. The locations were all very similar. The bad guys were similar. There wasn't like multiple bosses really. There was like 2 or 3. But then in Resident Evil 4, you have better characters. You have a better storyline development. You have the locations are changing all the time, and they're all unique. There's so many weapons to choose from as well as just like the overall story and the progression of it was just amazing. It's like a 10 out of 10 game for me. I can't believe I hadn't played the original or really heard anyone talk about Resident Evil 4 and how amazing it was, but that was by far the best one that I've played, even including 7. I have 8 on my computer. I probably will play 6 and 7, or 5, 6 and 7, or 5 and 6. I don't know whether to wait for the remaster or just play the original. I've heard that 5 is like really good. It's apparently I think it's the most sold Resident Evil game because of the multiplayer. But I don't know if the multiplayer is the only thing that made it good or if the single player is good. And then 6 I don't really know anything about, but I want to play them eventually. I don't know whether to wait for the remaster or not, but okay, got distracted with the whole side thing. Let's see if we can get him in focus here. He looks extra shiny. And that's because I accidentally put an extra layer of the varnish on that it didn't need. Come on. But yeah, it came with the chainsaw. It is missing some pieces. I got it from Etsy. Also, it's got the little. Come on. I hate autofocus so much. This lighting is not ideal. I don't know. Good enough. I bought it from someone on Etsy and it was missing a couple pieces, but I'm not super picky. But it was missing like some of the knives and another axe, but it didn't really matter. I had a lot of fun painting this, but this was by far the worst gluing experience of my life. This thing was such a pain, and I had to buy these clear, like almost CD stands for miniatures just to get it to stay together because it just was not working at all. But yeah, this sits on my desk, and I was blown away by how great the game was. Couldn't believe I hadn't played it before, and yeah, so that's Leon Kennedy. Yeah. I am curious what people think is the best Resident Evil game, because when I was looking online, it looked like there was a lot of divided opinions. A lot of people were saying the 5th one, but it was because of the multiplayer, it looked like. So, I don't know. I'm not really interested in the multiplayer experience, more of the story of the games, which I thought the 4th one, I thought Leon was such a great protagonist, and he was so, like, retro cool, like 80s cool, the stuff that he said, like, where's everybody going, bingo, you know, stuff like that just feels so cool. So yeah, that's Leon Kennedy. Now we're getting into the bulk of my miniatures. Well, miniatures, but figures. Why was General Grant on thermostat? Sorry. Side note, if you know, you know. They're figurines. Alright, so this is the next one. Don't break it. Okay, so this is the IP that most of my figures come from, which is Elden Ring. This, gotta be careful with this. So this is Ronnie the Witch. I'm gonna have to film, after this video, I'll film all the figurines, so there'll be close-ups and good shots of them. But this is Ronnie the Witch from Elden Ring, and this was a lot bigger than I thought it was gonna be in a game. I started really working on my technique with, and I was really happy with the result. For me, talking about Elden Ring, I'm gonna set this down because it's heavy and I don't want to break it. For me, Elden Ring, my first playthrough, the part that I really started to love it was through Ronnie's quest line, and she's always been a standout character because her accent is so cool. And the first time you meet her, which did happen to me, there's a lot of, like with Elden Ring, there's a lot of missable stuff because you gotta go to X location at X time and have picked up X item, whatever, to get something to activate. And the game is really hard to know what to do. And I played it on launch, and they've since added markers and more quest markers. So it's a little bit easy, but still, which is probably my biggest gripe with the game, is just it's hard to follow certain things. Like, you have to have the Wikipedia or the like, what is the thing called? I don't know. Wikipedia page, or not Wikipedia, the wiki page pulled up for it, just to like finish a lot of the quests. But once you know, when it comes to Elden Ring, I get like a photographic memory of where stuff is and like how the plots go. But anyway, I did actually find Ronnie by complete happenstance the first time, because after I got torn, I went back to fight the tree sentinel. That's at the first step, and she was there, and it was really cool. And then following her quest line was great. So that's always been I do like him. Here's another hot take. I really did not like Estelle as a boss. I think he's one of my least favorite bosses in the game. And to have him sort of be the final boss for Ronnie's quest was pretty disappointing for me. Again, most people love the boss. I don't know why. He's got like the jankiest hitbox, some of the cheapest moves in the game. And yeah, I just did not like that boss. It wasn't particularly hard. I was using the Bloodhound Fang the first playthrough. I've since played the game countless times. I've got a lot of hours in the game in the short amount of time that it's been out. But yeah, I didn't like Estelle. But yeah, Ronnie's quest is probably my favorite, and probably my favorite ending for the game. So yeah, Ronnie, that was the Ronnie the Witch statue, figure, whatever. And then up next is one that I'm really proud of because it involves light. Kind of. So this is Melina from Elden Ring as well. And she's got the fire around the rock and on her clothes. And I worked really hard to get the lighting correct. Again, I'll take videos and you'll be seeing that right now. But yeah, really happy with how her face turned out and getting her eye to be right. The leather also on this one turned out really, really good. But yeah, one thing that's interesting about this character in Elden Ring, and I also, first before I say that, I did have to get, I actually used a clear plastic CD that came with a whole bunch of CDRs that I have. I think that's what they're called. But it goes over top to protect all the new CDs. So I just used that and glued it to the thing because I didn't have the other things at the time. But yeah, her character's very unique and interesting, especially once you start getting into the lore of the game and sort of where her place is. And you put a lot of it together throughout your first playthrough of the game. But then stuff like with the DLC, with Messmer, it got really interesting, and it was rewarding to learn about these characters and then be much either makes or breaks the game. I know people. I have a friend who he said he started Elden Ring and he hated it, and he still doesn't really like it, but he doesn't like dying in video games, and that makes sense. But there's something about Elden Ring and just Souls games, because since I've played Elden Ring, I've played all the Soulsborne games except for no, I think I've played all of them. Oh, except for Demon Souls. I haven't played Demon Souls. That's the only one. And side note, I'm just gonna ramble about this because it's a rambling video. But here, let me put this down. I'm gonna drop it like the Lego incident of 24. So with Dark Souls, so after I played Elden Ring, the next one that I played was Dark Souls 3. And I played it way out of order. I wish I would have played it the proper order. If you're gonna play them in the proper order, because once you play Dark Souls 3, it's so difficult to go back and play Dark Souls 1. And it's also a lot more interesting story-wise throughout the games to play Dark Souls 3. But anyway, I played Dark Souls 3, loved it. The DLCs were great. The bosses were... that was my shoulder. The bosses were stupendous, and some of them were like the templates for what was to come. Like the Nameless King was definitely felt like an Elden Ring boss. The same with pretty much all the Ring to City DLC. Pretty much all of them felt like Elden Ring bosses. But I loved it, and then I took a big break in between. I played most of Bloodborne during that time. Started playing Sekiro, hated it, and then more recently finished Sekiro, loved it. So that's sort of my relationship with Sekiro. I started out, I thought it was terrible. I was literally like, how can anybody enjoy this? And I went online and everybody was like, huge learning curve. Don't approach it like a Souls game. And I just couldn't get the Souls game out of my head. Like, the way that you approach stuff as a Souls game, I couldn't get out of my head. So I just did not like it. And then I came back to it after not playing Souls games for a while. And I got it. It like clicked with me and I loved it. And I actually have gotten all the achievements on it now on Steam and did all the gauntlets and everything, which the gauntlets were brutal, but honestly it gets pretty easy once you've put a lot of time into it. But yeah, loved that game. Bloodborne, I need to play it again because I played it like it was split between long distances of time, so I didn't really experience it the best way. So I definitely will probably replay it at some point, especially since I didn't get to do the DLCs, because I didn't realize once you beat the final boss it just automatically restarts. I was too used to the new ones, but so yeah, I'll replay Bloodborne at some point, play it all the way through. Maybe if they ever remaster it, which I doubt they will at this point, especially since they're now making the same mistake by making a console exclusive for, instead of what was at one point, well, I guess, Bloodborne was PS4, right? Yeah. So it would have been top of the line at the time, but Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive. Come on, guys. For real. But yeah, I'll play Bloodborne again at some point and have a stronger opinion about it. But then I went back and played Dark Souls 1, and I don't like the game. I just don't like Dark Souls 1. I just didn't enjoy it. The fighting is so dated and clunky, and I played the remastered version. I tried the original, and it was even clunkier somehow, and I don't know. I couldn't everything felt terrible. All the bosses, like Ornstein and Smoke was the one that people were like, oh, this is like a legendary boss battle, but Ornstein just like teleports around the arena, like he'll glitch through pillars. They both will glitch around. It's so janky of a boss battle. And I know, again, this video could be called Hot Nerd Makes Hot Takes, but I did not enjoy it. It's incredibly dated, and if you played it when it came out, I get it. Yeah, maybe it was really unique, but now having all the newer Souls games and stuff, it just doesn't, it's not enjoyable. I'm even having a hard time coming up with what would be my favorite boss from Dark Souls 1. I don't even know. I just didn't enjoy any of them. I didn't enjoy the game, I just didn't. And then I played Dark Souls 2, which, hottest take probably of this whole video, I thought was miles better than Dark Souls 1, which, go ahead, disqualify me as a From Software fan, because I don't think many people have that opinion, but I felt like one of my biggest issues with Dark Souls 1 was the area, like the bosses weren't even hard. The areas were difficult, and at a certain point in the game, like halfway through the game, the areas just became like they were just spamming people all around. And then you'd have to run through all of them to get to the boss, and the boss was like easy, but if you died to like Janko, or if it's a skill issue, like I had a few times, then you have to run. You gotta take one of them. I timed it, and this goes for Bloodborne too. What are they? The guys in the black, the hooded guys. Oh my god, Bloodborne's the one that I know the least about, because I only played it once and it was separated, and I forgot a lot of the stuff. But the ring wraiths from Lord of the Rings, basically, where there's 3 of them. That run back was literally like 2.5 minutes, and Dark Souls 1 had some that were even longer than that. And so it's like, at that point, you're just purposely wasting my time. And there's a lot of like, really just like moments where it was just the game basically saying, like, we hate you. And it wasn't even like in a challenging way, it was just like purposely annoying designed areas. And that's what I felt like was way better about the second one, was the areas were actually, and I should say, I played the Scholar for Sin edition, which is technically a remaster, I think. But I thought that the areas were some of the best in any of the Dark Souls games. But the bosses were kind of terrible. They were all really easy, which is sort of why I think I still liked it better than the first one, because even though, like, you walk into an arena and there's 18 million skeletons there, and you're like, this is a boss battle, you wipe out the skeletons and it's really not difficult. But the area to get there was great, with some good challenges and great level design. I really enjoyed it. So I finished that one, got all the achievements on that one, did all the DLC stuff. I actually really enjoyed that one, and I've played it at least 3 times, I think is how many you had to play it to get all the achievements. And I felt like the story was a lot more prevalent in that one than in the first one. And the opening cutscenes and the characters, like, you start out and you're talking to like a group of NPCs, and there's a house full of NPCs, which is really unique to the From Software games, where there's not really like that connection with the world of like, oh, there's a normal house. But in the beginning of Dark Souls 2, there's like a regular house with some regular people in it. You know, they're old kind of witches, but still, it was cool to see, and a great way to start the video game. And and there was another thing about Dark Souls 1 is like stuff that they did to like purposely screw with the player was like not being able to teleport in between areas, like in between bonfires until later, and then when you get the power, you can't even teleport to all of them. It's just some of them. It's like you weren't restricted by the tech of the game. You could have made it this way, but you chose not to for some reason. And the testers had to have known that it just like wasted an enormous amount of time. So stuff like that, I don't know. It really made me hate the first game. I couldn't wait to be done with it. And maybe that's why I like Dark Souls 2 better, just because everything felt better about Dark Souls 2, except for maybe the backstabbing was a little more janky in Dark Souls 2. But the areas, the NPCs were all a lot more memorable, and I thought the areas were a lot more memorable. But yeah, obviously that all got pushed up to 100 with Dark Souls 3, which the areas were stunning and incredible. And although I did think that, I'm trying to think of what I would say the best like opening area of a game is, like the first area you explore. Probably Dark Souls 3. Yeah, I mean, Dark Souls 3 pretty much did everything perfectly. I do think that there was an element to Dark Souls 2 that actually felt like there was hope, that you were sort of like in a living world with the hub world being sunny and like grassy, and there being some more, like the first area being the Forest of the Giants was like really strange for a Dark Souls game, because it's like there's grass and a blue sky, and yeah, I felt like that was kind of cool. It felt like you were not just in this cursed world that had no hope of anything ever, like the first Dark Souls game and the second and the third one. It sort of felt like there was more life in the world, which I thought was kind of cool. And I know that that's probably not what a lot of Dark Souls players want, because that's a huge aesthetic choice of the other games, is just having it be this cursed world, basically, which I loved in Dark Souls 3. But I feel like playing Dark Souls through the trilogy would, if I had played it the right way, like 1, 2, 3, it would be really cool to experience the story that way. I don't know. But yeah, that's my whole rant about the From Software games, and I'm very interested to see what Duskblood is like. Doesn't roll off the tongue like Bloodborne does it. But very interested to see what that's like when it comes out. I probably won't play it because I'm probably not going to buy a Switch 2. I don't know. I'll wait and see if they come out with Legend of Zelda and then decide, but we'll see. I'm not a Nintendo guy, but anyway, at some point I'll probably play Demon's Souls, but from what I was looking at, it looked like that game was like mostly runbacks, so yeah, that sort of sucked all the interest that I had in the game out of it. Because I just can't abide by runbacks. Like, there's no reason. Like, I feel like what the Elden Ring DLC did so great, even better than the base game, was just not having runbacks. Like, it was like, these bosses are difficult and well designed to the point of where we don't have to do cheap things like have runbacks anywhere. And that was something that I really liked and really appreciated about the game. It's DLC that I thought was great. And speaking of the game's DLC, let's get to the final figure I have here. Now that I've been talking for an hour and a half about Dark Souls. Final one is Messmer. Now this one was by far the most complicated one. And I think it's probably the one that I'm most proud of. Although, all the way down his cape, there's glue. You can see glue, which again, we all know. I'm not good with the glue. And I just don't enjoy it. So, but yeah, I have it sitting on my shelf over here. And he's right next to Melina, which, spoiler alert, pretty sure they're siblings. So I thought it was cool to have them right next to each other. And yeah, this figure is like insanely detailed. The hardest thing about it was putting it together, not only because I'm terrible at working with glue, but the snakes. If you don't put it together right, like if you put a piece on before something else, oh buddy, it's an absolute hassle to fix. But yeah, the fire, this was my first time like messing around with fire, and it doesn't look as good as it probably could, but I'm still really happy with this, and I love looking over and seeing it on my shelf. And yeah, I thought the DLC was great. I did think that there was stuff that could have been better, and I wasn't disappointed with it. I do think it could have been a lot better. I was a little disappointed with Consort Radon being the final boss. Mainly because I was really hoping, and I get that Mikla's like on his back through the second phase, but I was really hoping that we were just gonna face off against Mikola, which, if you follow like some of the side stuff, like the Saint Trina quest line in the DLC, it's like building up to you fighting Mikola, and then it's Radon in Moog's body, whole big thing. But I was a little disappointed with that, and the difficulty on launch, which is when I played it, took me a long time. I don't know if it took me as long as it took to beat Melania. I don't know, it took probably, I want to say it took 6 hours to beat Consort Radon on the launch version, so unnerfed Consort Radon. Which actually, according to a lot of other people's stuff, that's not even that bad for the launch for Prime Consort Radon. And my computer's a little bit older. It's got a 1070 graphics card in it, and I got it in 2015. 2015. I did get the graphics card later, so I don't know when I got the graphics card. I want to say 2017. But yeah, it's a 1070, and so Consort Radon, with all his little moves and all his little, AoEs and stuff, it just is really hard on the frame rate for a guy who's got a 1070. But, so I'm not really ashamed of the 6 hour thing. It's a lot if you don't play games, but it's really not bad. But yeah, I was a little disappointed with that being the final boss. It felt a little underwhelming. And then the final cutscene I was really disappointed with, because I was expecting something more, and coming off of Dark Souls 3's DLC being like Slave Knight Gale being the final boss of basically the Dark Souls trilogy, that epic battle and his cutscene and everything, I had high expectations, so it was definitely, that part was disappointing. That and the first boss that I ran into was the Dancing Lion, and I did it without using the Shadow Tree fragments, and it took me 36 tries, and yeah, I hate that boss. I genuinely think that boss is probably my least favorite in all of Dark Souls, or in all of Elden Ring. Well, I guess I don't know about that, but he's definitely one of them. I just hate the boss design. It's so difficult to tell what he's gonna do, because he's just like a lump, and you can't always see the part of his body that's like designed to show you what he's gonna do. And so, really disappointed with that boss. But then after that, there's some incredible bosses in between Dancing Lion and Consort Radon. my favorite boss in the DLC, and her not having a cutscene, especially with like all the lore that's laid down about her and Messmer, like having a cutscene with her would have been really cool. But yeah, and then Messmer, obviously, I thought Messmer was incredibly good. I thought he was a lot easier than I thought he was going to be, but having his total cutscene time is like 3 minutes or something like that throughout the whole fight, and that was something that I was thrilled about, because getting to see the bosses that you fight and the way that they behave is really what stands out to me about the game. And so Messmer was just thrilling, and then all the lore in Messmer's castle. All of Messmer's castle was genuinely some of the best dungeon design in all the games. I thought it was incredible, and then having it divided into 2 pieces, and then there being another piece that you can't get to until later. I thought it was amazing. And then having Messmer be the boss at the end was awesome. And he's probably my favorite boss. It used in the whole game. I think it used to be probably Godric or Moog or Radon. I mean, one of those. I really like Godric's cutscene. Godric is just so cool. But Messmer, I think, is my new favorite. His voice acting and his monologue at the beginning, and all the lore about him. Like when you're walking through the castle and there's the ghost, and it finally says, "Yeah, Messmer is America's son." It's like this huge lore moment, and I was really excited about it, and really nerdy and stuff. So yeah. Okay, I think that is pretty much all the Elden Ring and figure stuff that I have that I wanted to talk about, and that took up a large chunk. But yeah, now I don't really know how to transition, but I'll just start talking. It is a rambling video. So up next, I wanted to go through some of my Blu-ray collection and talk about probably my favorite things that I have in my Blu-ray collection. I did a whole video talking about my full Blu-ray collection and going through all of it. There definitely is more stuff that I've gotten since, but not any that is worth making a whole new video about. But I'm going to go through and show some of my favorite things that I have in my collection real quick. So, right off the bat, I have the Whiplash. I think it's an anniversary edition, maybe, but it's the steelbook going for it. I thought the steelbook was really cool. It's a symbol, and it's got like a splash of blood on it, like in the movie. I got it all protected. But yeah, I thought this movie, I didn't think that I was gonna like this movie, because I had seen some clips of the like romance parts of it, and I was like, it doesn't really look that great. And then I started it, and Terrence Fletcher walked in, and it was like, I was hooked, and I could watch this movie over and over and over again and never get sick of it. And there's a few movies that I could do that with, and this is one of them. And at the time, I wanted to be a filmmaker, and I was working on some short films, and this was hugely inspiring and sort of affected how I look at films. But yeah, this is a great film. Highly recommend it. Yeah, that's that. Another thing I have here. Let's see here. Let me get it. Try not to drop anything. Okay. So up next, I got the Pulp Fiction Steelbook. This is the 4K Ultra HD version of it. I thought it was really cool. They're dancing on a record, like a turntable. Thought it was really cool. And then in the back, it's got Burger and Shake and the Red Apple cigarettes, which is Quentin Tarantino's brand of made-up cigarettes. is another film that I could watch over and over and over again and probably never get sick of. Obviously, most people know it's like one of the most unique movies ever made. You're just sitting and it really feels like you're just getting a window into people's lives. And yeah, I don't know, blew my mind the first time I watched it. And I know that's pretty cliche because most people that enjoy film go on and on about this movie. But I was really happy. I got this for Christmas one year from Max and Carson. Yeah, it's great and I love it. And it's one of my favorite in my collection. Another one of my favorite things that I have in my collection is the Matrix Steelbook. Now, I haven't seen this Steelbook around a lot. I think it was, I want to say it was a Walmart exclusive. I can't remember. So, don't at me if I'm wrong, but yeah, this is the Matrix Steelbook, and it is really cool. The Matrix used to be my favorite movie, and I was going through a period of time where I would watch certain movies and like not get it and feel like really disappointed that I didn't get it and be like, why did I not get it? Like, and so when I started watching this movie, I was just coming off of another movie that I didn't get. Can't remember what it was. Might have been The Godfather. But I just didn't get it, and then watching The Matrix, I was really worried at the beginning that I was like, I'm not gonna get this movie, and then by the ending I was blown away, and then I started walking around in black trench coats, and I thought it was really cool, but I wasn't really cool, but this movie is really cool. It's not my favorite movie anymore, might just be outside my top 10 or just inside, I don't know. But yeah, the Steelbook is awesome. And Goose, certified Goose ASMR. Shout out to all the geese out there. Alright, this next section's definitely going to get me rambling. So, some of my favorite things in my collection is, it's the prequel trilogy of Star Wars on Steelbook. So I have all 6 of them on Steelbook, and they all match. So we got Darth Maul, we got Yoda, and we got General Grievous with those ones. Now these all match. They all have wonderful art on the back. And yeah, so Star Wars is I'm a nerd about a lot of things, right? Like, I'm a nerd about a lot of things. There's a lot of video games, a lot of movies, a lot of stuff that I'm a nerd about, but Star Wars has always been, for me, hands down, number one, the most important. Now, over time, nothing can replace my love for the original Star Wars or even the prequels. Now, I love the prequels. The prequels get a bad rap a lot of the time, but I think that they're terribly misunderstood and get a bad rap. There's definitely issues with them. Nobody denies that there's issues with them. Are they as good as the original trilogy? No, absolutely not, but they are incredible on so many levels that I think that they, even if you don't enjoy them, they deserve your respect in some regard. But when I was 5 years old, so the reason that I'm such a big nerd is when I was 5 years old, my mom and dad went through and sort of were showing us movies that they grew up on. We watched like the original Superman and the old Batman with Adam West, and then Star Wars Episode 2 had come out recently. I mean, because that came out in 2002, I believe. Yeah, 2002. And so there was a clip of Star Wars Episode 2 on TV, and we started watching Episode 2 for a little bit, and then my mom was like, oh, well, we should rent the original ones, because that's what we grew up on. And so we went to Blockbuster, and we got Star Wars Episode 4. We watched that one. We watched Star Wars Episode 5, and then we rented Episode 6. And when we saw that, we saw Return of the Jedi for the first time, my older brother Spencer was like, Mom, can I buy this from Blockbuster? And you could buy movies from Blockbuster. I don't know how it works. I never really knew the technical details, but we bought it from Blockbuster. And somewhere, my brother has a DVD copy of Return of the Jedi from Blockbuster because we loved it so much. And Return of the Jedi is definitely not my favorite now, but back then it was like, I don't know. And then for Christmas that year, we asked for Episode 4, and we both got a copy of Episode 4 for Christmas, which I still probably have somewhere, but I don't know where. But that started my love, and then for Star Wars, and then we watched the prequels, and then Star Wars Episode 3 came out, and I would have been 5, probably, because I think we watched all these when I was 4 and 5, but yeah, Star Wars Episode 3 came out, and my mom and dad were like, well, it's PG-13, it's the first PG-13 Star Wars movie, so we're gonna watch it first and see if it's okay. And we were not allowed to watch Star Wars Episode 3 when it came out, which was really disappointing because we saw commercials on TV for it. We had I forget what the things are called, round thing with pictures of film, and then you put it in the thing and it shines a light through and you can see clips of it. There was promotional ones that came in cereal boxes that we had, and we could see like General Grievous and all this stuff that, looked awesome, and then we weren't allowed to watch it, and it was devastating. But luckily, we had the originals, and so we watched the heck out of the originals. We probably watched Episode 4 when we got it for Christmas, like every day for a while. Not even kidding. But yeah, Star Wars is like my ultimate special thing to me, and I know it's like that for a lot of people, and sort of given them a nerdy, their love for nerdy things and sort of weird, complex story, world-building stuff. So yeah, that was these. And then in 2015, they came out with The Force Awakens, and I have that on Steelbook too. Now this one nearly matches, other than the Star Wars font on the side. It matches all the other ones that they had previously released before Disney even bought it. So it's not exactly the same. It doesn't have art on the back, but I point this out because it's gonna tell a story in just a minute. But when I saw Force Awakens, I thought it was fantastic. I still honestly think that Force Awakens is a good movie. There's a lot of the reuse of some Star Wars things, but I think it was a great segue into what could have been really unique Star Wars stuff. Well, it did turn out to be unique, that's for sure. But so Star Wars Episode 7 I thought was incredible in 2015, and I was really excited, and the commercials dropped for The Last Jedi. And then The Last Jedi came out. Now, all the steelbooks have matched up to this point, and if you collect anything, you know that like symmetry between different things is really satisfying. Symmetry between a set of, a TV show or a series of movies is really great if they all match and go together. Here's the steelbook for The Last Jedi. You notice anything off about it? Now, the only reason that I own this is because I pre-ordered it. And then I saw the movie. Now, in the theater, Luke throws the lightsaber, right? I go, okay. Ugh. Watching the movie, right? It's going and going. Not really a lot is happening. It's pretty boring. it's a puppet, somehow it looks terrible. And at that exact moment, I went, oh, this movie's not good. There's a bad Star Wars movie in the world. Now, I'm sure that that's how a lot of people felt about Phantom Menace, and so I sort of sympathize with those people, even though I disagree. But what proceeded and what happened through the rest of the theater was complete disaster. Episode 8 of Star Wars: The Last Jedi, directed and written by Rian Johnson, who, by the way, is responsible for directing the highest rated episode of a TV show ever, which is of Breaking Bad. He directed it. He did not write it. Okay, and while I believe that The Last Jedi is directed terribly, the cinematography is terribly, and if you don't think the cinematography is terrible, you can write a bingo card. You could write a bingo card, but there's only 3 shot types that you could put on a bingo card. It's like lockdown shot, if it's a conversation shot, reverse shot, and then throughout the movie it does this really interesting, it's not interesting, but clearly they thought it was, dolly pan zoom in shots or dolly sweep shots, but they're all very obvious and very bland and distracting once you realize that it's doing it every 2 seconds. Not only that, Rose is a terrible character, insanely boring. Finn becomes boring in this one. All the new characters, what's her name? General Holdo, I'm gonna say. Not positive. Laura Dunn's character, or is that her name? I don't know, I'm bad with names. The girl from Jurassic Park. She was the most annoying character in anything ever, and the writing surrounding her is so unbelievably bad, which is so sad considering she's a great actress and she could be great in a Star Wars movie. But instead, they wanted to, I don't even know what the thought process was, but they made Poe Dameron stupid. They made Finn stupid. They made Holdo seem like she was smart, but she was also stupid. They made Leia look stupid. They changed how jumping to light speed worked. I don't even know what they... I don't know. I left the theater and instantly I felt depressed. I don't know. It was terrible. It was the worst. I think it's the worst movie ever made, possibly. I hated it. I still hate it. Here's nothing. If the steelbooks don't tell you enough about the people that worked on Star Wars Episode 8 versus the people that worked on Star Wars Episode 7, here's just another thing. So this is the bonus DVD for Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now you can't really see, but on it has J.J. Abrams, who directed and mostly wrote it. And then you got all the actors and some of the crew here sitting around a table, right? That's the bonus disc for this one. What do you think the one for Star Wars Episode 8 is? The whole cast, the crew, any of the actors. It's just Rian Johnson talking to C-3PO. Not a big deal. Just something that I wanted to point out. Anyway. Yeah, and then Star Wars Episode 9 came out, and it's like, whatever. I mean, it's terrible, but, I mean, it's like, whatever. It doesn't really matter after how bad Episode 8 was. How they butchered every character, even that they had created under Disney's rule. But yeah, sorry. Insanely negative. Insanely negative vibes that I'm sending out, but I can't talk positively about it. I think Episode 7, I still enjoy watching Episode 7 because it reminds me of how excited I was in the theater watching it and surrounding its release, like how cool it was being a part of that era. But yeah, that was really disappointing. So you can clearly tell how I feel about it, and I'm sure that a lot of people feel that way about the prequel, so maybe it's just a generational thing, but I don't know. But I love Star Wars. I don't, other than Episode 7, there's nothing that Disney, oh, actually, no, I also have, and this is probably actually the rarest thing in my entire collection, is the Rogue One Steelbook. Now, this Steelbook sold out so quickly. It was so hard to find these for so long, and finally I found one. My sister was like, hey, haven't you been looking for the Rogue One Steelbook? And I was like, yeah. She said that she found it on eBay, and so I got a brand new copy of it. This isn't the stand. I don't know what edition this is. It doesn't say Rogue One on the side. It just has the characters' faces. It has no text on it at all. But I saw this in theaters with a friend of mine, and we loved it. We thought it was great, and I still do think it's great visually. I think that they did a great job, probably the best out of any of the Disney Star Wars, and really anything that Disney's done in the past while, since Pirates of the Caribbean 3, really. CGI-wise, that has looks very professional, and yeah, so I enjoyed Rogue One. I thought it was good. All the TV shows, I think, aren't good. The first 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, I was like, okay, it might be good, and then it continued to be boring, and then the episode with Bryce Dallas Howard, that she directed, which I think was episode 4 or 5 of season 1, where they teach the village to take down the AT-ST Walker, and yeah, I was like, okay, so either this is a kid show or it's written by kids. And in that same episode, there was a boom mic visible, and so I was like, yeah, I'm done. Star Wars is dead to me, really, and I get that a lot of people enjoy it. So some of my friends don't. Some of my friends don't like watching stuff with me because I seem so negative about stuff. But genuinely, if you enjoy the movie, I think that's great. If you enjoy the TV show, I think that's great. I enjoy talking about it. I am very opinionated about it, but ultimately, I just love movies. I love film. I love television. I love the art of it. Like I said, I worked really hard through my teenage years on short films and stuff, and I really thought that was what I was made to do until I started working on music, and so I understand the art side of it and the production side of it, and that stuff stands out to me, and I understand that not everybody sees that stuff, and so I try to always not seem so negative about it, because I don't want people to not want to watch stuff with me, because I'm like, I didn't like this stuff about it that nobody ever really cares about. But I don't know. It kind of does suck. I wish I could like the stuff. Like, I wish I liked The Mandalorian, and I wish I liked all the shows that they're coming out with, but I just don't. I just can't get past the writing, the weird storytelling, I don't know, it just feels, I don't know, I just don't like it. I could write it. I've genuinely thought multiple times about making a channel where I do essay-style videos about movies, because I do have a lot of opinions about movies, and maybe some unique takes and some unique perspectives on how writing is used in film. Like, here recently, we watched Daredevil. We didn't watch Born Again, but we were rewatching Daredevil, the first 3 seasons. I hadn't seen the 3rd season. I had seen the 1st and 2nd when it first came out, and I remembered the 1st season not being like exceptional. Like, I remember really liking it. I had a poster of it in my room for a while, but watching it this time, it actually is really genuine. The 1st season is really, really well written, really well paced, great action, I was really blown away. Great. I mean, the writing in that season alone is just really incredible. And then season 2 came around, and the first half of season 2 is really great with the Punisher. And then the second half with Elektra, you start getting into writing issues. And it's kind of interesting to see the shift in cinematography from the first one to the second one under new direction and not showrunners, but writers. And so, like, one thing that I noticed in season 2 was they kept doing this, like, shoulder switch shot where it went behind people in a conversation, but it wasn't really based on the conversation. And then in season 3, when Karen is talking to the cop about Wesley, and he's asking her questions, and then she starts asking him questions, they actually did it correctly. And so I was like, that's kind of interesting. However, the writing in season 3, I did not like. The pacing was extremely weird. I really liked Bullseye, but Fisk sort of just became this, like, Fisk hasn't done anything even remotely smart. He didn't do a single, like, smart thing in season 3. It just sort of was, he was like a Mary Sue bad guy where just everything, he just had it. He had leverage on all these people, and it literally just felt like he was unbeatable. And then Daredevil through most of the season is just crying about everything. I don't know, he was weak half the season, and he didn't even beat Bullseye. Like the season almost proceeds exactly the same without Daredevil in it. I think that's my biggest problem, is Daredevil really did not contribute that much to the outcome of the season. Bullseye actually affected Fisk more than Daredevil did, and the whole time Daredevil's going, oh, I'm gonna kill Fisk, and then changes his mind, and then it seems like he's gonna let Bullseye try and kill Fisk, and then he stops Bullseye from killing Fisk. I don't know, it just didn't, and it was like halfway through again. The first half was slow, but it was alright, and then the second half was just like not good. I think my favorite scene of the whole thing is actually when I think Karen's my favorite character throughout the whole show, but when Karen actually goes and talks to Fisk, that scene was fabulous. They needed more of that kind of stuff in season 3, where there's this balance of Fisk has leverage, they have leverage, something that it doesn't feel like they're all worthless. And so, yeah, but things like seeing different camera movements be used differently between directors and different writing styles, how it affects the story, I've always wanted to sort of talk about in depth, because there's a lot of that stuff that I tried to put into short films that I made, and to be honest, the short films that I made were mostly pretentious. I mean, they weren't good, but so if you think I'm being critical of myself too. I'm not looking at my work with rose-colored glasses, but yeah. Anyway, I don't mean to seem so negative. I genuinely love movies, and I love talking about movies, and now most of you guys are probably like, oh, I hate to talk about movies, but I think I love talking to people about movies, and if they like different things, and like I have a lot of friends that like the new Star Wars stuff, and you know, I plead my case with them and sort of point out what I don't like, and they just go, oh, well, I enjoy it anyway, and I go, okay, well, I hope I'm not being too negative with the stuff I'm saying. I'm not trying to seem like I'm a negative person about movies. I genuinely love film, and I love talking about movies even with people that I disagree with. Like one of my friends, the guy who didn't like Elden Ring, he actually enjoys hanging out with me because we sort of debate about movies and have different perspectives on movies. So that's sort of what I like doing. I like seeing people's different perspectives because everybody's so unique with their taste in movies and music and all that kind of stuff. And even though we disagree, it's fun to talk about. Like, Max and Carson, my brothers, we usually agree on like how we feel about a movie. We're very similarly minded, but there's been times where we watched a movie and I was like, oh, I liked that movie, or oh, I didn't like that movie, and they liked it or didn't like it, and it was actually kind of cool because I was like, wow, we're actually divided on something. Like, we get to talk about this. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't know if any of this is making sense at all, but yeah, there's my whole Star Wars writing and sort of thought process with movie rant. I got a couple more things I want to show you just before we end, so we end on a high note. Okay, so the last thing I have in my collection, which is one of my most recent purchases, is the 12 Angry Men Criterion Collection. This was on sale on Amazon, and I had watched this movie last year for the first time and was totally blown away because there's not really movies made like this anymore, mainly because they don't really, I don't think they really would sell nowadays, and they would fly pretty under the radar just because it is pretty much entirely dialogue in a single room. But every character is so unique, and it's sort of like it's like Pulp Fiction, where you get a window into somebody else's life or these different people's lives, and you get to see it play out. It's like bird watching, but it's human watching. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's a insanely unique movie, and I didn't think my younger siblings would think it was entertaining just because it's mainly dialogue, but we watched it and they loved it, and so that's a testament to how great this movie is that even younger people. But yeah, fantastic film. And the last thing I was gonna show was my Criterion collection for Fantastic Mr. Fox. I've shown it in another video, but I think it's down in the basement right now because we watched it last fall, and I guess I left it down there, or it ended up in the movies down there. But yeah, Fantastic Mr. Fox is amazing, and it's definitely one of my top 10 favorite movies. But yeah, anyway, that's pretty much all I had that I wanted to talk about. Hopefully I wasn't too negative about anything or seeming like I'm a negative person. But yeah, this was fun, sort of just talking about stuff that I enjoy and showing off some of my hobbies and stuff. There's a lot that I could talk about. I got a bunch of stuff in my room, but it would just be a really, really long video, and yeah, it'd take a lot of time to do and a lot of filming maybe at some point, but yeah, these were things that I thought were sort of fun to talk about and would get me rambling. So hopefully my rambles and rants weren't too negative. I genuinely am not a negative person. I love talking about movies to anybody who will listen, and yeah, I hope you enjoy all the movies. I hope you enjoy whatever you watch, because it just feels good to watch something that you enjoy. But hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and hopefully you've got some rest and relaxation out of it. But yeah, thanks for all the people that were requesting to do this. Hopefully it lived up to expectations of what you wanted, but it's pretty much just a long period of time of me talking, which is what a lot of people requested too. So hopefully you got some rest and relaxation or some sort of entertainment out of this video. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching. My name is Parker. I'm the Third Sheep, and you've been watching 1, 2, 3 Sheep ASMR. I will see you next time.